Let us for a few moments think of Sri Ramakrishna and pray for the well-being of the whole humanity. Shanti, 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 Hari Om Tat Sat. Om Sthapakaya ca dharmasya sarvadharmasvarupine Sthapakaya ca dharmasya sarvadharmasvarupine Avatara Varishtaya Ramakrishna Te Namah. Asato ma dadgamaya tamaso ma jyotirgamaya asato ma sadgamaya tamaso ma jyotirgamaya mrityormamritangamaya. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Let us bow down to Sri Ramakrishna, the embodiment of all religions, the Supreme God incarnate. Let us pray to Him to lead us from unreal to the real, to lead us from the darkness of ignorance to the light of knowledge, to lead us from death to immortality. Sri Ramakrishna, walking towards Panchavati with M and other devotees, went near the Ganges to see whether the flood tide would be coming. Referring to the tides, Sri Ramakrishna said, the ebb tide and flood tide are indeed amazing. I am just quoting what Sri Ramakrishna had said. He said, but notice one thing. Near this sea, you see ebb tide and flood tide in a year. But far away from the sea, the river flows in one direction only. What does this mean? Try to apply its significance to your spiritual life. He is explaining the significance. Those who live very near God feel within them the currents of devotion, ecstasy, and the like. So, when the river is very near ocean, you will see the tides. In the same way, if we come close to God, we will experience immense joy in various ways, giving everlasting peace and fulfillment. So, Sri Ramakrishna is indicating that we should take up spiritual life and follow certain disciplines with great firmness. Then only it is possible for you to experience the immense peace. then only you will be able to solve all the problems confronting your life. So this theme we discussed in the last class. Today I am continuing on the same subject. How one cannot solve any problem in this world by depending on worldly ways. You may have temporary solutions, but that will not ensure you real peace. So, sooner or later, you will have to turn yourself to spiritual life. We have come into this life. Life means full of problems. You will have to pass through the problems unshaken, with firmness. That is very important. You should not get stuck up in the problems and get lost in the world. So it is important to know some of the facts so that we should take up to spiritual ways to experience peace and fulfillment. What we call life is a dialectical confrontation between Sat and Asat. Being, existence, and non-being, non-existence. After dealing this point for some time, finally we will take up the spiritual ways of solving the life's problem. Swami Vivekananda gave the definition of life to the Khetri king, who was a great devotee of Vivekananda. Swamiji said, life is the unfoldment and fulfillment of a being under circumstances tending to press it down. Being and non-being, Sat and Asat, affirmation and negation, are the two poles of life. Life is thus a contradiction, a paradox. Almost all the problems of life stem from this paradoxical nature of life. Animals don't feel it. Man alone feels it. It is a peculiarly human experience. Man tries to resolve this paradox through two complementary strivings. One is the struggle to overcome asat, non-being. And the other, the struggle to assert being, sat. First we shall take up the struggle to avoid non-being, the struggle to avoid asat. There is in every one a deep-seated fear of non-being. Non-being does not mean only physical non-existence or death of the body. It covers mind and its products also. Non-being means negation. Negation of everything connected with human existence. Negation of the real nature of man, the essence of the human soul. It is because of this negation we are constantly suffering. Even though we may have a smiling face outwardly. In Vedanta, non-being is called Maya, Ajnan, ignorance. According to Vedanta, our real nature is pure and good. Evil is its negation. Our real nature is blissful, which topic I spoke in the first weekend of November. Our real nature is blissful. Sorrow is its negation. Sin is the negation of the divinity of the Atman. Each soul is potentially divine. The negation of that truth is a sin. Humiliation is a negation of the dignity of the soul. There is a perpetual fear of negation, non-being in us. Behind every action, there is the fear of failure. Behind every desire, there is a fear of unfulfillment. There's a great Sanskrit verse composed by a great king, Bhartrhari. His poems are composed, they run up to 100 verses, they call Vairagya Shatakam. I am quoting from that text. Then I will tell you the meaning. Bhoge roga bhayam, kule chuti bhayam, vitte nrupalad bhayam, mane dainya bhayam, bale ripu bhayam, rupe jaraya bhayam, shastro vadi bhayam, gune khala bhayam, gune khala bhayam, kaye kritantad bhayam, sarvam vastu bhayan vitam bhuvi nranam vairagyameva bhayam. Wonderful, most significant verse. He says, in enjoyment there is a fear of disease. In social position, the fear of fall. In wealth, the fear of hostile kings. In honor, the fear of humiliation. In power, the fear of enemies. In beauty, the fear of old age. In scholarship, the fear of opponents. In virtue, the fear of scandal mongers. In body, the fear of death. Indeed, everything in this world is accompanied by fear. The whole world is full of fear. Renunciation alone is fearlessness. That's the truth. One of the basic teachings of the great Swami Vivekananda, the great disciple of the great Master Sri Ramakrishna, is that fear is the main cause of the human suffering. He says, either in this world or in the world of religion, it is true that fear is a sure cause of degradation and sin. It is fear that brings misery. It is fear that brings death. It is fear that breeds evil. Here, by fear, Vivekananda means the deep-seated existential fear. Swamiji continues and tells, and what causes fear? Ignorance of our own nature. How many ways the holy people tell us? Still we don't learn. Still we don't improve. It is this ignorance that existentialist philosophers call non-being. In modern times, the existentialist philosophers of the West have paid considerable attention to the experience of existential dread as a typical characteristic of human existence. A famous existentialist philosopher, Kierkegaard, has summed up the nature of human existence in 4 words: individuality, contradiction, choice, and dread. The root cause of fear is individuality, the awareness of one's separate existence as the ego. The greater the feeling of egoism, the greater the feeling of insecurity. This inherent fear manifests itself in different people in different ways. One is the feeling of loneliness. The attempt to overcome this by identifying oneself with one's family, with one's friends, with one's colleagues, seldom succeeds because these external relationships hardly touch the core of human existence. Our negative reactions constitute another mode of expression of the fear of non-being. Hatred and jealousy spring from the fear of some loss to the ego. The boss's reprimand, a friend's betrayal, or the calumny spread by the neighbor makes us feel upset and sad, not because of any danger to our physical survival, but because it threatens the survival of the ego. You feel hurt. I am hurt, you say. It has gone to that extent. You become miserable because you feel you are hurt. You feel you are insulted. Another very common mode of existential fear is anxiety. Anxiety is a general feeling of insecurity which is not directed to any particular object. When anxiety is directed to a different objective, as for example, the education of a son, the marriage of a daughter, a business transaction, it becomes worry. In fact, 2 days back, I got a phone call from a very close devotee. The devotee began to express the inner feeling going on, how the person became depressed. Why it happened? The person was saying, oh, we are getting old. My son is not deciding to marry. He will not become a monk. His line of thinking is not in that direction. But then he is postponing wedding every time we propose. He is not sure whether the bride would be the correct choice, etc., etc. So how long we should have to wait like this? What's the use of our prayer to God? He is not solving any of these problems. What is the solution to this? How to get over this depression, this anxiety? I told, you are doing worship every day. And the person was telling to the extent she is not inclined to do puja on account of this fact. God is not responding. What is the use of doing puja? According to her thinking, God should immediately respond by arranging a wedding. See the fun. Till the son is married, the worry stays in her mind. She is burdened. And she is unhappy. And again she is asking, is there any solution? I told, well, in spiritual life there is solution, and that is all this suffering and worrying and depression are coming to you simply because you are attached. And it is not unnatural. I am telling you, it is very natural for the mother to feel that way. But you have to rise yourself over this. As long as you are attached, for some reason or other, you will be worrying and you will be depressed. You must rise yourself. You must lift up yourself to the level of non-attachment. That is the spiritual life. Uddhared atmanatmanam atmanam avasadayet. Lord Krishna says in the Gita, you have to rise your mind. There is no other way. I can't rise your mind because your mind is inside you, inside your constitution. You alone have that power to rise. Only it needs strong willpower. Then again comes the application of spiritual ideas in the life. Anyway, like that, I had to spend probably about 20-25 minutes to bring the devotee to a certain state of peacefulness. Another very common mode of existential fear is anxiety. Anxiety is a general feeling of insecurity which is not directed to any particular object. That's what I told just now. The education of a son, the marriage of a daughter, and so on. When the anxiety is directed to a definite objective, it becomes worry. Worry is an attempt to get rid of anxiety. When worrying goes beyond a certain limit, what happens? It develops into psychosomatic diseases or neurosis. The eminent existentialist theologian, Mr. Paul Tillich, has classified anxiety into 3 types. The anxiety of guilt and condemnation, the anxiety of emptiness and meaninglessness, and the anxiety of fate and death. The first one, that is the anxiety of guilt and condemnation, comes more commonly during adolescence. The second one, the anxiety of emptiness and meaninglessness, comes during youth and middle age. And the anxiety of fate and death comes at the last stage in old age. Now we shall consider the struggle to assert being. We have had enough discussion about asat. Now we shall try to understand something about Sat. We have seen that there is an inherent fear of non-being, destruction in all creatures. That fear of non-being, fear of Asat. Half the energy of man is spent in overcoming this fear. However, it's only the negative side of life. Its positive side is the struggle to assert being. In plants, in animals, and primitive men, this struggle goes on mostly at the physical level in the form of a struggle for food and multiplication. This is what Darwin called the struggle for existence. In civilized societies, in modern times, you can say, this struggle for mere physical existence has been eliminated to a great extent through technological advancement, through economic planning and reconstruction, and through increased social awareness. In the civilized person, the struggle to assert being is mostly shifted to the mental plane, not so much on the physical plane. At the mental plane, the struggle to assert being manifests itself in 4 ways. First, the pursuit of sense pleasure. Secondly, the pursuit of power. Thirdly, pursuit of higher values. And lastly, spiritual aspiration. In Sanskrit, there are specific terms for each one of them. We call kama, artha, dharma, moksha. They are collectively called Chaturvarga Purushartham, 4 goals of human life. In some people, all the mental energies are directed towards sense pleasure. Morning to night, they keep on enjoying on the physical plane. There is a story in our scriptures, Indian scriptures. Just I take only the point that is necessary for my talk. There was a king, his name was Yayati. This story comes in Srimad Bhagavatam. Yayati was a great king. He enjoyed the life in his youth very well. He wanted to enjoy more. He was so much hankering after enjoyment, but suddenly he found he had become old. That vigor was no more there, that youthfulness had gone, but still the appetite is there. He wanted to enjoy. And he became restless. So, what he did was, he called one of his sons. Well, look, I have got a desire to enjoy a little bit more. Will you please give me your youth to me and take my old age on yourself? Transferring. And that boy was very obedient. In those days, they would pay very high respects to the parents. Anyway, all the sons were not like that. This particular boy very willingly said, all right, father, you want to enjoy? Take my youth. I will take up your old age. So, Yayati became young, son became old. And he enjoyed pleasure. Yayati enjoyed and enjoyed and enjoyed. Many years. At last, finally, he discovered Najato kamaha kamanam upabhogena shamyati havisha krishnavatmeva bhuya eva abhivardhate. It's a beautiful verse. The story comes in Bhagavad. Finally he arrived at the truth. He found he can never get satisfaction in enjoyment. Carnal desire can never be satiated through sense enjoyment. Nay, it will only increase like fire fed with ghee. So, when his mind was firmly rooted in this fact, Then he renounced everything and went to the forest to live a life of contemplation. Then the story continues. Anyway, sense pleasure can never bring us fulfillment. On the contrary, as a young sage, Nachiketas, in another Upanishad, Kathopanishad, he was a very young brahmacharin, very energetic, full of vigor, full of wisdom, full of purity. He knew very well the facts confronting the life. He said, the sense pleasure only dissipates the vigor of the senses and the mind. Sarvendriyanam jarayanti tejaha. The mental energies of some others are directed toward acquiring power, which is what artha really means. They are mad after power. It is the desire for power and superiority that urges people to acquire more land, to acquire more wealth, to acquire more material goods, to acquire more strength, more name and fame, more beauty, more higher social status. Like that it goes on. However, the lust for power can never be satisfied. For the more one acquires, the more one's needs increase. In more enlightened people, the struggle to assert being manifests itself as a pursuit of higher values like truth, goodness, and beauty. Formerly, philosophy was regarded as a search for truth, but in modern times its place has now been taken over by science. The pursuit of goodness takes the form of ethical life and social service. The pursuit of beauty constitutes the primary basis of art. All these three pursuits are covered by the comprehensive term we call dharma. But these values, though they are all superior to sense pleasure and greed, still they are only the shadows of the ultimate reality, and are therefore they are incapable of bringing us lasting fulfillment. The effort to attain fulfillment by Trivarga, by the way of Kama, Artha, Dharma, which I just mentioned, is restricted to the body and mind. When man realizes the futility of this effort, he begins to seek the spiritual principle beyond body and beyond mind. Then he runs after the Guru. He becomes restless to know the spiritual knowledge. He is no more bothered about anything of this world. Nothing satisfies him. He runs and runs in search of the Guru. Then dawns true spiritual aspiration in him. True spiritual aspiration is an intense desire for liberation, freedom. Freedom from fear and unfulfillment. Freedom from non-being. Freedom to attain the true immutable being which is man's original nature. Total and everlasting freedom from all miseries and struggles is called as moksha, atyantika mukti. In Sanskrit, beautiful words. Atyantika mukti means final liberation. When a person reaches that highest state of final liberation, he is all the time peaceful. Now, to recapitulate what we had talked about in the last class and today, there are two basic strivings in man. The struggle to avoid asat, non-being, and the struggle to assert being, sat. The former manifests itself as fear or anxiety, and the latter as unfulfillment. How to attain freedom from fear and unfulfillment? This is the main existential problem of man. He tries to work out various worldly solutions. As one of the spiritual texts says, Ekanta tyantato bhavat. Worldly remedies are neither absolute nor final. Commenting on this statement, a great saint by name Vachaspati, he says that if such remedies existed, nobody would strive for spiritual life. Because there is no remedy in the worldly ways, they are turning towards spiritual way. There is a saying, Ukte chen madhubindeta kibartham parvatam vrajet. That is, if honey is available near at hand, where is the need to go to the mountain for it? So here the question arises as to why worldly remedies are inadequate to solve the problems of life. The answer is that the problems of fear, anxiety, unfulfillment, love, hatred, etc., they are all really problems of human experience. External objects and people only serve as secondary causes. The primary cause lies deep down in consciousness. Naturally, their solution too must be sought in consciousness. So, in my next Tuesday class, I will dwell upon the Vedantic solution to our human problems. Thank you. Page 534. Sri Ramakrishna said, no salvation is possible for a man as long as he has desire, as long as he hankers for worldly things. Therefore, fulfill all your desires regarding food, clothes and sex. Smiling, Sri Ramakrishna said, what do you say about the last one? Legitimate or illegitimate? M and Mahendra laugh. It is not good to cherish desires and hankerings. For that reason, I used to fulfill whatever desires came to my mind. Once I saw some colored sweetmeats at Bura Bazaar and wanted to eat them. They brought me the sweets and I ate a great many. The result was that I fell ill. In my boyhood days, while bathing in the Ganges, I saw a boy with a gold ornament around his waist. During my state of divine intoxication, I felt a desire to have a similar ornament myself. I was given one, but I could not keep it on very long. When I put it on, I felt within my body the painful uprush of a current of air. It was because I had touched gold to my skin. I wore the ornament a few moments and then had to put it aside. Otherwise, I should have had to tear it off. I once felt a desire to eat the famous sweet in the temple garden. A desire arose in my mind that there should be a separate storeroom to supply them with their provisions. Mathur Babu arranged for one. The sadhus were given foodstuffs, fuel and the like from that storeroom. Once the idea came to me to put on a very expensive robe embroidered with gold and to smoke a silver hubble bubble. Mathur Babu sent me the new robe and the hubble bubble. I put on the robe. I also smoked the hubble bubble in various fashions. Sometimes I smoked in reclining this way, and sometimes that way, and sometimes with head up, and sometimes with head down. Then I said to myself, oh mind, this is what they call smoking a silver hubble bubble. Immediately I renounced it. I kept the robe on my body a few minutes longer and then took it off. I began to trample it underfoot and spit on it, saying, so, this is an expensive robe, but it only increases man's rajas. Rakhal had been staying at Vrindavan with Balram. At first he had written excited letters praising the holy place. He had written to him, it is the best of all places, please come here. The peacocks dance around and one always hears and sees religious music and dancing. There is an unending flow of divine bliss. But then Rakhal had been laid up with an attack of fever. Sri Ramakrishna was very much worried about him and vowed to worship the Divine Mother for his recovery. So he began to talk about Rakhal. Master said, Rakhal had his first religious ecstasy while sitting here massaging my feet. A Bhagavad scholar had been expounding the sacred book in the room. As Rakhal listened to his words, he shuddered every now and then. Then he became altogether still. I shall stop here. Any questions, comments? It is not controlling. It is what he said was, Uddhared Atman Atmanam. One has to raise one's own self. That is, one's mind, himself should raise it up. Atmanam avasadayet. One should never allow the mind to depress. And mind is one's enemy. Mind is one's friend. Atmanaiva bandhu atmaiva ripuratmanaha. That's the verse which Lord Krishna says in the Gita. So everyone has to struggle and find the solution. That's what Lord Krishna says. So we have got this life, we have got this body, we have to raise ourselves properly and attain Atyantika Mukti. Anything you want to ask? Any question? Very good, we shall stop. Chant the name of the Lord and His glory unceasingly, that the mirror of the heart may be wiped clean and quench that mighty forest fire, worldly lust, raging furiously within. O name, stream down in moonlight on the lotus heart, opening its cup to knowledge of thyself. O self, down deep in the waves of his bliss, tasting his nectar at every step, bathing in his name, that bath for weary souls. Various are thy names, O Lord, in each and every name thy power resides. No times are set, no rites are needful for chanting of thy name. So vast is thy mercy, how huge then is my wretchedness, who find in this empty life and heart no devotion to thy name. O my mind, be humbler than a blade of grass. Be patient and forbearing like a tree. Take no honor to thyself, give honor to all. Chant unceasingly the name of the Lord. O Lord and soul of the universe, mine is no prayer for wealth or retinue, the playthings of lust or the toys of fame. As many times as I may be reborn, grant me, O Lord, a steadfast love for thee. A drowning man in this world's fearful ocean is thy servant, O sweet one. In thy mercy, consider him as dust beneath thy feet. Oh, how I long for the day when the instant separation from thee, O Lord, will be as 1,000 years, when my heart burns away with its desire, and the world without thee is a heartless void. Prostrate at thy feet let me be in unwavering devotion, neither imploring the embrace of thine arms, nor bewailing the withdrawal of thy presence. though it tears my soul asunder. O thou who stillest the hearts of thy devotees, do with me what thou wilt, for thou art my heart's beloved, thou and thou alone. O Lord, lead us from the unreal to the real, lead us from darkness to light, and lead us from death to immortality. May all be free from dangers, may all realize what is good, may all be actuated by noble thoughts, may all rejoice everywhere. May all be happy, may all be free from disease, may all realize what is good, may none be subject to misery. May the wicked become virtuous, may the virtuous reign tranquility, may the tranquil be free from bonds, may the freed make others free. May good betide all people, may the sovereign righteously rule the earth, may all beings ever attain what is good, may the worlds be prosperous and happy. May the clouds pour rain in time, may the earth be blessed with crops, may all countries be freed from calamity, may holy men live without fear. May the Lord, destroyer of sins, the presiding deity of all sacred works, be satisfied, for he being pleased the whole universe becomes pleased. He being satisfied, the whole universe feels satisfied.